So I made it a recorded space anyway, so I guess we can just start having a chat about some of the stuff. I guess the reason why I was wanting to put the space together was that, over the last week or last couple of weeks with, go.hex.com becoming more decentralized with IPFS and the downloadable and locally hosted versions, and then that happening to the PulseChain bridge, I've certainly noticed that within the circles, both socially and professionally that we operate, people are having more trouble. I think that, due to the efforts of you, Katie, and others like Coffee as well, with the videos on YouTube, I think you're really breaking down what this means, because I think that, people very often think there's a big problem when there isn't. Personally, I think the PulseChain bridge is working great from Ethereum. I'll let you have a chat in a little bit of time, Katie, about, just how you explain it to the people who you help. I guess this forms part of clearly a strategy to make PulseChain and Hex more robust and to be more indicative of real DeFi, which I think is fantastic. And just, I think, remind people that these things are working great. This isn't a problem. New DeFi users probably do find it just that little bit more difficult. So I thought we'd talk today about how the bridge works, other options. We'll do a bit of a summary of how things are going with Coast, because, it's working great. And we've got some new features coming out to make it easier for new users who don't have any gas for their initial transactions. So we can talk about that all a little bit later. But I thought I'd just, before you have too many more tequila shots, Katie, I thought we'd throw over to you, for you've been doing a good job of just explaining and setting the ground as to what changes have happened, what does that mean, how does that affect you as a new user. I'll shoot it to you.
Thanks for throwing the tequila shots out there again.
It's a disclaimer. Disclaimers are an important part of financial education.
Okay. Not financial advice, anything that I say. The additional link that you click now on gohex.com or on the Pulse Bridge just takes you to a website that hosts an IPFS link. So when you upload content to IPFS, it becomes immutable. So you're removing trust from anyone, right? So it's like if you have a traditional DNS, like a gohex.com website, you're reliant on servers and the DNS system as well, right? And both of those fall under jurisdictions. So the SEC or governing bodies can mandate that these sites be taken down. They can be censored. They can be DDoS attacked, right? Like you've seen on the petition that's going around that we're all signing. People are DDoSing, attacking it. So it's like all these additional measures that you have to take into place and consideration, including the fact that anybody can take your website down through a mandate, right? So IPFS hosted content is like a big giant decentralized network of nodes, kind of like PulseChain, right? It's like a bunch of validators that are running it. But in this case, it's nodes, and the nodes house data. So when you upload content to IPFS, you get a hash, and that hash is unique to the content that's put up there. So no other bit of content on the network can have the same hash. And if you make any changes or alter the content that's uploaded to IPFS in any shape or form, you get a new hash to represent the new version of content. So all you have to do is press one additional link to go to the IPFS hosted site, and you know what you're interacting with is in fact immutable, and nobody can alter or change that content because of the hash that you're interacting with. And if you go to like Brave, for instance, Brave browser has native support for IPFS links, so you can just do IPFS .. and then the hash. Right, but if you don't have Brave and you use Chrome, it's just an additional click, and then you can move along, right, and go to the interface. So it's really not anything different. It's just one button that you have to press. It's just people understanding that. Now, if you have like security measures like firewalls on your computer, you obviously have to allow that one site through the browser, like through the firewall. So like that can be part of an issue with onboarding and trying to explain to people. But other than that, it's just literally one click, and you know that you're removing all middlemen by doing it. If you want to remove so when you press on one of those links, you go to a website that's still hosting the IPFS content. So while the content itself is decentralized, you're still using a centralized third party so to speak. So those people can be tracking your IP address and doing all those bits and bobs. Like you're still reliant on somebody there in some sense. So then you get the downloadable zip files, which means you can locally host the interface on your own computer, or your own device. That's 100% removing all middlemen. But that's the part that maybe a lot of people find a bit too more complex. So if you just press the button, everything's fine. But if you want to work on downloading it, you just download the zip file, open up the zip file to the folder, open up the folder and press start, right? And it will start locally hosting it inside of your browser. That removes all middlemen at all of them. So.
Yeah, cheers, Katie. So I think it's important to emphasise that this does make PulseChain, the bridge between Ethereum and PulseChain, more robust and more censorship resistant. And that's a fantastic thing, and really is indicative of the real DeFi products that are getting built. It's a standard that not a lot of chains are being held to, but as you mentioned, it is somewhat of a friction point at times for new users. We all know that new users just want to go somewhere, click a button and have it be really easy. And they probably aren't as excited about, the fact that we have IPFS hosting and, more robust infrastructure now on PulseChain. But look, those of us who've been here for a while and this community is fairly DeFi native as it is, it is a really good thing. And I think just be patient with people as they come to ask questions and come to get help. I did want to ask, I don't have, in terms of, we can talk a bit about Coast in a bit. I don't actually want this just to be a Twitter space in which we tell everyone to come to Coast, but it is a alternative for you guys and something to think about, especially as the bull market comes and the Ethereum-based computational fees start to go up, both due to, let's say Gwei being in the couple of hundreds and the Ethereum token price being back above 5K. You might find initiating bridge transactions pretty expensive. But I wanted to ask Katie, have you had any experience with the other bridge product?
Yeah, I've used several of them just to try them out as well. So if you go to Pulse Coin List, even though it's still missing some, they have a buy PLS page, and we're working through aggregating and showing everybody all the bridges and ways to get into PulseChain and buy PLS. We are working on adding a few like Coast. But I've used Change Now, I've used Portal X. I tried Token Express the other day when this happened. I've tried pretty much all of them and they're all pretty good. Some of them have limitations. So I think Pulse LN, for instance, has $1,000 maximum. So it's really not the best bridge to use, to be honest. Token Express is pretty good because it's another cross-chain bridge. It's an Omni fork, just like Pulse Bridge, from Binance to PulseChain. The only problem there is some of the liquidity is a little bit thin. But it's still a good bridge. It's up and running and it is the same as Pulse Bridge. Portal X has limitations because currently they're routing through Change Now. And I think the liquidity pool has about $30,000 or $50,000 in it. So again, if you go to bridge too much through there, you eat a bunch of slippage and it will just fail. Portal X is currently working on aggregating Pulse Bridge. So that'll be like a secondary interface for Pulse Bridge itself where you won't have to go through all the additional links. And then Portal X is like an aggregator, so it'll make bridging a lot more simpler for people as well. So you won't have to do all the additional clicks. You just press the button or find the token you want to leave, token you want to go into and press the button and it'll take you through the process for you. And Coast, I'm a little biased on Coast. I really like it. And I'm super excited about the feature for gasless because I think for onboarding and people trying to get native PLS, I think what Coast are building is going to be a massive feature for PulseChain. Everyone's talking about centralized exchange listings to make onboarding to PulseChain easier, but we don't need a centralized exchange listing because Coast are building the ability of what a centralized exchange does.
Thanks, Katie, and I'll let you, work on having Coast listed on the website that you're the new master of. But look, I guess while we're talking about some of the other options, because look, at the end of the day, the Coast platforms are being built purely as a way to get more economic energy onto PulseChain. We are long-term community members. We're heavily invested. We just want to see the PulseChain ecosystem flourish. That's why we want to hold a conversation around all the different ways of getting money on chain, because money getting on chain, rising the valuation of the various tokens and the different financial products that everyone likes, because everyone's a little different, is really our core mission. And if that's via the Pulse Bridge, if that's via Portal X, if that's via Token Express, that's all fine. We just think we are an additional product that's aiming for the same goal. On that note, before we talk more about Coast, I guess Token Express and its BSC bridge, you mentioned the liquidity is a little bit low, Katie. You don't have any numbers off the top of your head? Because I guess I was going to mention to users that because I think something we're not really thinking about is at times, or maybe we are, but 2021 Ethereum was almost unusable for ERC20 swaps, certainly the Hex contract. But even simply initiating the computation for an Ethereum to PulseChain bridge, I think could be easily in excess of $500 when we're starting to hit peak euphoria. So perhaps the Token Express BSC bridge might be an option for people that are looking to get into PulseChain as the Ethereum congestion and token price increases.
Yeah, Token Express is pretty cool. I mean, it's just an Omni Bridge fork, the same as Pulse Bridge. So, it's like pretty well battle-tested code. And honestly, for cross-chain bridges, probably the best code that there is available on the whole entire market. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of like fee-wise, yeah, Token Express is good. I don't have numbers on the exact liquidity because I looked at it a few weeks ago and anything I said now would be lying. But just go look at BNB, wrapped BNB on PulseChain to PLS pool. Yeah, but I mean, the liquidity is growing too. So when I went and looked at it, the statistics were going up. So I think it's just more of like an adoption curve thing as well. Like I don't think many people in our community know about Token Express, but mind you, not many people shill it. I think Brett, the PulseChain dev, might actually be the founder behind it. It's just like a quiet thing that they're not talking about though, because he was the first one to ever talk about it publicly. So, I mean, in terms of like trust, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Brett's pretty keeps his cards close to his chest. Certainly, we as a team, and I know a lot of the others, get a lot of help from him. And so, if he's behind Token Express, which I don't really have any information on, then that would actually, that'd be something I'd find really reassuring. But yeah, I guess in summary, before I start to talk about some things that are happening on the Coast platform, it's just important to remember that one, everything's fine with the bridge. It works awesome. The new updates are really just increasing the robustness of the platform and the applications, which is great. But it is probably a friction point for new users. So, be patient, be helpful. There are alternatives. When you're thinking about on-ramping smaller amounts of money at a time when Ethereum token price or coin price, is higher, and ETH congestion, and the GUI is in the hundreds, then, maybe Token Express via BSC is going to be an option for those wanting just a DeFi native on-ramp, so from crypto to crypto. But then look on Coast, as I said, our mission is just to get more economic energy on chain. We don't need to be the only way of doing that. We definitely are a platform that sits within legacy finance. And as I'm sure everyone's used centralized exchanges over your crypto careers, that's largely the product we're looking to replace. And what we've tried to do, if anyone's been using it, is try to improve and make it more self-custodial and make it, I guess, a more pure product with the values of DeFi inbuilt. That comes in the form of users, when they sign up, they create a digital bank account in their own name that's administered by Fortress Trust based out of Nevada. And from that digital bank account, users are able to mint the CST stablecoin one-to-one with any fiat in US dollars that they move to the collateral account. I guess the importance and the value of that is that it has actually allowed us to cooperate with Fortress Trust by being outside of the flow of funds as a team and utilize the money transmitter licenses that they already have. And that's been the reason we've been able to scale to over 50 countries within, the first month of operation. It is definitely frustrating and unfortunate that within the US we're still unable to accommodate customers from New York and Texas. I think people in New York are used to, having a fairly high regulatory burden, but I'm sure it's, really frustrating for us, for the Texas users as well. And that's just a matter of a money transmitter license for Fortress Trust and Texas. I guess the other thing to mention in that regards is people may have noticed that MetaMask is looking to introduce a fiat on-ramp. They're only going to be offering it in a handful of countries, and that is really indicative of how difficult this process is. So to be able to design the product such that we're outside of the flow of funds and able to scale quicker to offer more people the ability to onboard to PulseChain, I think, was a good design intention on Stoic's behalf, which I should give him a rap for. A little summary, I guess, of the platform. So it's been operational for a couple of months now. Currently, we have 2.7 million circulating CST stablecoins. So they're 100% backed by fiat in the CST collateral account. The TVL on chain in terms of liquidity continues to grow. So there's, over 2 million liquidity on PHUX in a stablecoin pool. Anyone, providing liquidity there is earning over 10% APR, which is, pretty handy for stables. There's a new pool on PHUX, so it's a coast to PLS pool with a 0.1% swap fee. So that's, been an attempt to create, the lowest cost, most capitally efficient on-ramp pool, and that's got just under $1 million of TVL with an APR for liquidity providers of over 50%, which will probably come down a little, but I think will stay pretty attractive. I guess the majority of our liquidity's been on PHUX, and, the balance of technology that they've forked really beneficial for stablecoins, particularly in the stable swap pools with other stablecoins, and you'll see those opening up with the other native stables coming to PulseChain being USDL and PXDC. The last 2 points before we open up for any questions is we've seen, we have analytics for the CST stablecoin and the reserves on our dApp. So that can be found at app.zeroxcoast.com. If you click on the analytics tab, you can see in real time how much US dollar is in the collateral account versus how much CST is circulating, and that'll always probably be over collateralized because a few users will not mint their CST, but it can't be under collateralized, which I think's good. If you deep dive into Tether and Circle, you'll notice that they provide attestation reports that list, the basket of assets that are largely treasuries that back their stable coins. But, for the purpose of CST, it's simply backed by fiat in a bank account. The other thing to mention is that you'll notice on that dashboard, it gives a rundown of both daily, weekly and monthly, how much CST is being minted versus burnt. That's, a graphic that looks different but is similar in nature to the June analytics on the Pulse ramp bridge, which just shows whether economic energy is coming into or out of PulseChain through our platform. The last week's seen a lot of burning of CST, which allows for people to off-ramp. And I guess importantly about that, it's just hopefully been a confidence test for the community that the stablecoin is always redeemable for $1, less a small redemption fee. But the liquidity is being tested significantly. It's completely collateralized, so there's no problems there. But as I said, the net influx into PulseChain currently is about $3 million. We're aiming for, obviously as the bull market starts to, become more obvious to everyone and we have people more confident and sentiment rising, we're hoping that goes to the tens and high tens of millions at least this cycle. And I guess the last thing to say is that over the next week, if you using our platform, you'll start to notice that we're incorporating direct buys of 4 assets with US dollars. So on our dApp, you'll see a buy tab, and that you'll be able to at that point buy Pulse, PulseX, Hex, or the Weight token directly with USD. Now that'll be, I guess, of most value for new users who don't have any Pulse when they first come to the platform, and that'll allow them to get gas for subsequent transactions. We think that, friction to any online transaction is something that just loses people. So we want to have as seamless, easy onboarding experience as possible, because as you know, I'm sure everyone here is on the same page. We really are just wanting to help do our bit to grow the network. So keep an eye on that. You'll also notice, or you may notice, we're updating and running our own RPC infrastructure. For the not so nerdy of you out there, that really just means if you imagine airport security with multiple lines or queues to get through airport security, that's a little bit what it's like. That's a little bit similar to what it's like requesting transactions to be confirmed by validators. So essentially, by us having our own RPC infrastructure, it'll just mean that anyone minting or burning CST will be essentially at the front of their own queue, having their transactions submitted to validators. So that should improve the user experience even further. I thought I'd throw it back to Katie, but then to the group more widely, if anyone had any questions. We thought we'd just have it open for anyone who had any Q&A for the next sort of 30 minutes or so.
I have a couple of questions from other people to ask you, but I just wanted to say to people, like the community is wanting centralized exchange listings for easy onboarding so people can have PLS for gas coins, but we don't need centralized exchange listings because Coast just built that. So you can directly send your onboards to Coast and they can change their USD for PLS now natively on PulseChain and Hex and PulseX and Weight, which is super awesome as well. But, to get the gas coin, it's a massive deal. And to remove centralized exchanges is even bigger deal for PulseChain. And one of the questions from the people in the community is they wanted to know how many unique users you guys have right now.
Yeah, so in terms of customer base, we have over 1,000, and they've cumulatively done over 14,000 transactions. So, that's both on and off ramping. So, it's been pretty well uptaken already. And yeah, it's something we've been really happy with. So, most users are in the US. Number 2 on the list is the UK and other European countries, as well as Australia. But if you go to zeroxcoast.com/markets, you'll see the 50 countries that you can participate in if you'd like to. And yeah, I guess to echo Katie's point, it is really hard building this infrastructure. Now, we don't need any thanks for that, or, we just want to build critical infrastructure for everyone who wants to participate on PulseChain. And, we sort of bought into the idea that, and the narrative that Richard spoke of regarding vertical integration for users and having a safe place to go. It's also completely fine if you want to utilize our platform a bit like a centralized exchange. So we are not an on-chain protocol. We are in legacy. So if you want to use our protocol simply to move into the assets that you like, that's completely fine. We got a question from Crypto Coffee actually today, which I guess is important an important question that people might have. And what he asked us was, do we have the ability in the CST contract to blacklist any token holders, a bit like is allegedly in the USDC contract? And the answer to that is no. So if we were to be told by an agency that, KDP crypto was to be banned from our platform, then the most effect we could have on KDP is to not allow her to come to the dApp. In terms of use her account, she could still swap out of any of her CST into other assets or off ramp from PulseChain completely independently on chain. So there's no ability for us to remove or invalidate anyone's coins. We deliberately don't have that ability in the contract.
There's another question about your fees. Are you going to lower them? So maybe it's a good time to talk about locking up Weight to reduce the fees.
Yeah, sure. So the platform fee currently is, and look, I would recommend that you go onto the website and read some of this, because in this forum it can be repeated a couple of times and can start to sound a little confusing. But essentially, we launched a free claim that for the Weight token, which some people will remember, and that was essentially a free claim for people who sacrifice for Pulse, PulseX, or a variety of other DeFi products on chain. And the goal was to keep people engaged while PulseChain was being built and reward those who had supported the network. and the weight tokens are able to be locked on our platform for discounts. Now, the platform fee at a standard is 4% for the minting and burning of CST. But if you lock 1,000 weight tokens, then that I think is about $1, then that comes down to 3%. If you lock 10,000 weight tokens, that discount comes down to 2%, and I think that's $10. And if you lock 100,000 weight, your platform fee comes down to 1%, and I think that's $100 or a bit under $100. So those are the tokens on PulseChain. They are where the majority of the weight-related discounts are. You can, in fact, lock the Ethereum-based weight tokens, but that's for a separate part of the platform, which we can talk about a bit later if anyone's interested. But yeah, I definitely recommend. So anyone who participated in the free claim should have more than enough weight tokens to, for no price, just lock and have a 1% platform fee. To follow on to your point about will those fees be lowered, they are simply essentially a loss leader. So they're not part of our plan for those to be a source of profit. So they can be adjusted over time to make sure that on-ramping is capital efficient for users.
And there was another question about IPFS with like your security walls on your computer. Is it common for IPFS to be caught up in them? And yes, it is, like most of the time, just because they're just not used to it. So if you go to an IPFS link, sometimes if you're running like a security measure, like AVG or something on your computer, you do have to allow access to that link, to that site. That's pretty common.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So I guess if anyone's got any pressing questions, then I'd be more than happy to address them, whether that's Coast, whether it's PulseRamp, Token Express, whatever. Katie and I can help you with any of those. We just largely wanted to give everyone a bit of a quick update. So I guess, yeah, if anyone wants to put their hand up, or we can start to, wind this down.
And I just want to say, now that I've taken over and started to join with Pulse Coin List, I will definitely be adding Coast to the list of bridges and a few other ones as well. And then after the fact, that's going to be a website that you as the community can go to find what's the cheapest way to onboard and what's all the bridging options that you guys have to actually get onto PulseChain and to send your other users to, as well as the fee rates all attached to it in one place. So, yeah.
That was just a bit of banter earlier, Katie, about not being on there. I really don't mind. Katie often DMs me and gives me ideas for how I can write tweets better or graphics that I can use. So she's been really supportive. She's turned a almost middle-aged man into, improving in terms of social media ability. So thanks, Katie.
I'm always happy to help anyone. And obviously, I am a big fan of Coast. Pulse Former, go for it.
Hey, yeah, love your work, Coast. I had two questions, or one question, one topic. The first being, how long does it usually take to go from Pulse into CST into the bank account?
Hey, mate, thanks very much. So you're particularly just talking about off-ramping. That's fine. So
or on-ramping, either or, just time frames.
I might give you a bit of an overview then. A few important things to note about on and off-ramping. So I'm not sure, a lot of people, KYC is a sensitive topic. And so some people prefer to use some of the other on-ramps that don't require KYC. I guess it's important to note that often comes with significant transaction limits and typically not the ability to off-ramp. So if you're going to use our protocol, there are no real limits to how much you on or off-ramp. Your ability to off-ramp is simply limited by the circulating supply of CST. So currently there is just under $3 million US dollars that can be off-ramped via our platform. So there's no limits in that point of view. Now, to get back to your question, I might even just walk through the process of on-ramping, because off-ramping is simply the reverse. I mentioned at the start that when you sign up to our platform, When you register, you are creating your own digital bank account that's administered by a Fortress Trust. And those accounts can be spread across various banks. A lot of users are finding that the Provident Bank is where their bank account is being registered, but that's a bank account in your own name. And the way the funds will flow is that you can fund your digital bank account with money from any of your pre-existing bank accounts. And once the money is in your digital bank account, you're able to mint CST essentially as a blockchain transaction. Now, to be fair, when you mint CST, that requires money to be moved between your digital bank account and the CST collateral account, which isn't a blockchain transaction, and it takes a little bit longer, but because it's all within the management of a Fortress Trust administered account, that's done largely instantaneously or within less than 1 or 2 minutes. So the process of off-ramping is largely the same. So you can burn CST and claim your US dollars into your digital bank account very quickly. When it comes to funding your digital account for the first time, so this is somewhere where just having a mature approach to capital allocation and management is important. So the first time you're using it, you'll notice there's several options. So US users are able to do ACH transfers, but being a new provider and a new platform, there's relatively high anti-fraud protections placed on us. So you'll notice that it will take a couple of days for the funds to clear into your digital bank account. But given that it's a bank account in your own name, there isn't really nothing stopping you just moving money into that account well before you even choose to buy or execute any of your trades. The other options for users from all countries are to send a wire. They are often in working days. They are landing within a couple of hours. I think Kool-Aid, you love a wire, mate. Is that right? I'm pretty sure that I know that you've been using wires quite a lot. And I guess the CST model is in some way taken inspiration from TUSD, in which you wire money and you get TUSD tokens. So it's we have more options than that, but that is the one. Given wires aren't exposed to any form of chargebacks or fraud protection mechanisms, they are the quickest and easiest way to move money into your digital bank account. Other options include depositing Ethereum-based stablecoins. So if you have USDC, USDT, or DAI on Ethereum, you're able to move that capital straight into your digital bank account. That is, in a way, allows the platform to work as somewhat of a virtual bridge between the two chains as well, but largely is probably the cheapest way to off-ramp from Ethereum, full stop. But the goal there is actually to provide capital to bring onto PulseChain from ETH. We also have integrated the use of money, like some intermediary services like Wise and Revolut. They are actually fantastic. They're actually fantastic providers of services. So if you think about Wise in a way, for international users, it will move your currency, whether that be Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars, Great Britain pounds, euros. It will convert that to USD so that it lands in your digital account in the correct currency, and it'll do that with the most competitive exchange rate that's available. And it also allows you to utilize things like credit card, debit card, bank transfer and other things, for example, in Australia, like Poly, to commence the money transfer, and it can deliver them as a wire and therefore can essentially clear almost, in a matter of hours on the Fortress Trust end. So I would recommend, in summary, PulseFormer, that you have a little bit of a look around the site. There's some educational videos, but that's roughly how it's working. We've mentioned and teased on socials that we may be able to include a debit card. We've sort of placed on Twitter some potential graphics of a Coast card that would be attached to the digital bank account, and that would be utilized for those wanting to off-ramp fiat. So you'd be able to burn CSD, redeem your US dollars, and that would be accessible by that card immediately. So that's I guess the summary.
Gotcha. I love it. As far as like the bridge conversation goes, Katie, have you heard of Block Blend yet?
Yeah, I've got a block blend.
Okay, I've been trying to get opinions on it and stuff, but like the platform looks like it was made for us.
Yeah, look, I don't give financial advice, and I try to only talk about things that I personally would use. So when I looked into Blockblend, they hadn't done an audit, and they used like 200 different wallets to bounce around transactions. And I mean, like when there's no audit and they won't like disclose to you how they do the anonymity, it's kind of like worrying to me because like there's several ways you can do it. You can even just bounce like transactions off of a centralized exchange and claim it to be a de-anonymizing bridge, but in fact it's not. So, I mean, the 200 wallets kind of screams centralized exchange, and that bridge went down temporarily when OKX did. And then, like, you have like mixers. So, in a typical mixer, it takes 24 to 48 hours to actually anonymize your transaction. So, like, if you're doing an on-chain mixer, so back in the day with Tornado Cash, it was 24, 48 hours to actually make you anonymous. And, like, they offer bridging in like 12 minutes. So, I mean, like for me, it's just too many questions and variables that didn't get answered. So I stayed clear from it and I wouldn't use it. So main reason why I wouldn't tell others to use it is because I personally wouldn't myself. But I mean, they have had PulseChain support since PulseChain was like a couple months after it launched. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate it. I didn't know a lot of that. So it's nice to know. Well, so yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for bringing me up. Y'all answer my questions, so thanks.
Yeah, no worries, mate. And that's why we bring KDP along. She brings the brains. So thanks for answering that.
She does have a lot of brains.
Nicola, did you have any questions?
No, I think you brought us through it, actually. It was about the KYC onboarding process, mostly. I was super curious about the card thing. So just to confirm, you wouldn't actually touch legacy at all. Is that correct? Understood?
So I guess there's a couple of aspects to that question. I'll touch on the KYC at the end. But to clarify, your digital bank account is a real bank account. So that is by definition touching legacy. So if you're off-ramping to your digital bank account, that's the way the flow of funds works. Whether or not that's attached to a debit card, then you are at that point within legacy using fiat. That is the reason why KYC is required for a limitless fiat on and off-ramp, because you're opening a real bank account. So if you would imagine walking down the street into whatever branch of whatever bank is nearest to you and wanted to make an account, then the KYC required on our platform is very light and very quick, and comparatively, I think, but it's required because you're moving between fiat currencies in real bank accounts.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
When debit card?
Well, I guess we're at the market phase where our goal is to bring money onto chain, not have KDP rage dumping via her new Coast debit card. We're trying to build out the functionality so that new users can buy Pulse or PulseChain assets easily. I mentioned that we will be releasing the gasless swap shortly. The back end of those, CST is minted and is swapped on chain and returned to users, but the user experience for someone who's new to DeFi will be such that they literally feel like they're just swapping USD for Pulse. So those kind of things are our current priority. Adding a debit card is something that we've discussed with Fortress Trust. There is not any major hurdles to doing so, and we will look to add that on at a later time. But yeah, some of the designs are pretty cool. We get super excited about it, and we hear people asking about, metal cards and all sorts of stuff, but it's just not our immediate priority for, I guess, where we are in the market cycle as well as the development phase of the platform.
Just one quick question. I heard about something about Fortress was getting acquired by, or is getting acquired by Ripple. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so this sort of came to light. I'm gonna guess 6 weeks ago. I've just at the moment lost immediate track of when that was. But Ripple chose not to proceed with acquiring Fortress Trust, so Fortress remains its standalone institution. So I'm not aware of any updates to that unless something's happened in the last day or so. But I believe that is no longer going ahead.
And putting all jokes aside, so I usually joke around with the Coast guys, but all jokes aside, it's really amazing what they're doing for PulseChain, and I really hope that people appreciate what they're doing. Like dealing with TradFi, for instance, is something that would cause a major amount of headaches and hair loss. And these guys are doing it for PulseChain to bring us one of the easiest onboarding solutions for new people. And now we have gasless coming as well. So yeah, I mean, I take my hat off and I thank the Coast Guards regularly, and I hope people realize the efforts and the amount of money and economic energy that they've had to put in to build this for our community. So,
yeah,
and I want to say that real quick. By the way, resolute tip of the hat to you guys, and all the love. You guys have literally the most flawless butter way to onboard and offboard I've ever seen. More importantly, if you're in America and you're dealing with anything else or anywhere in the world, be an adult and choose a wire. It's your money. Be an adult. It's immediately issued, and within 3 or 4 hours, tops, it's in your account. If you're going to be managing your money appropriately and smartly, do the adult solution. You can do all the other ways, from credit cards to debit cards to all the rest of that. But when it's your finances, do the appropriate way, just like an HOV lane. Take the wire. It's completely flawless on how it executes. Set it up in your bank account, have it approved. My Bank of America immediately goes in. I can transfer it, and it's butter. Absolutely flawless. I have an accredited account with Gemini, and I am so proud that the Coast team is in our back pocket building something that's absolutely flawless compared equal band to what the Winklevi twins did. So again, tip of the hat, resolute, stoic, and all you guys.
Thanks, Kool-Aid. Really appreciate it. And I might use that line, send a wire and be an adult. That's a good one. Appreciate it.
The truth, man, is if you want to handle your money, do it like an adult.
and everyone in the room, Kool-Aid is not giving financial advice when he says that. He is just giving manly advice.
Absolutely. All right, I'm dropping back down. All the love, you guys.
Thanks, mate. Well, look, does anyone else want to jump up, ask any questions? In summary, and people can go back and listen to the recording. We just talked a bit about the PulseChain Bridge, Token Express, and Coast more recently. More than happy to be here to answer any questions or start to phase this down.
I think we can phase it down. I think we went through most questions that people would have.
Yeah, sounds good, Katie. All right, well, listen, I want to say thanks very much to Katie. You synthesise topics really well. She's been a great supporter of our team and personally helps me in the background use social media more like a younger person, so I really appreciate it, although you can probably still tell that it's a middle-aged or near middle-aged male using our Twitter account. So thanks, Katie, for being here. Thanks for everyone asking questions. Give us a follow at our Twitter. That's usually where we'll post any updates. So when the gasless Pulse purchasing goes live, that's where we'll be updating everyone. Please follow Katie. She's done, continues to do a great job. Has been highly active throughout the whole bear market. Has made all sorts of have no expectation promises around the PLS price. So she'll be someone who we'll all look towards for the next several months. So without anything further, I might shut this space down. But thanks everyone for coming along, and good luck over the next little bit.
Thanks, Coast. And just for the record, I didn't give any promises other than sack rate by 2024, and then there's a promise. Otherwise, it's no expectations anywhere.
No, in all seriousness, you do a good job. I'm excited to see your YouTube channel start to build and come along. I'm sure it'll be great. But you've been, arguably the queen of Twitter for the last year. So appreciate your support. Thanks for coming along, and thanks for everyone that you helped bring to PulseChain, because we're all here with the same goal in mind, and certainly your efforts have not gone unnoticed.
Thanks for everything you guys are doing at Coast. I think speaks volumes. The community is definitely behind you. And I mean, what you're doing is massive. And I think especially with gases and the market starts to turn around a bit, people will start to recognize all the effort and hard work you guys have put in.